History of my oldest ancestors of whom I am very proud descend. The 28th of August 933, born, Richard I, the Fearless, 1st Duke of Normandy, my 32nd, 7 times my grandfather, the first holder of this title, great-grandfather of William I, the Conqueror, 1st King of England. Richard I, the Fearless, 1st Duke of Normandy, was born in France, Fécamp, August 28, 933, and died in Fécamp, France, on November 20, 996. He was the son of William I, Count of Normandy, and from Sprota de Senlis, paternal grandson of Robert I, Rollo or Rollo, 1st Count of Normandy and Popa de Bayeux. Richard I of Normandy, known as Richard, the Fearless, in French, Richard Sans Peur, was Duke of Normandy between 942 and 996. He is considered the first true holder of that title. Birth: Ricardo was born the son of William I of Normandy, and his wife, Sprota de Senlis. She was still a child when her father died in 942. Her mother was a Breton concubine, captured during the war and married to William, according to the Danish rite. Biography: As Richard was still a child when his father died, he did not have enough power to stop Louis IV of France when he took Normandy. Louis IV kept him prisoner during his youth, in Lane, under the pretext of ensuring his education, but Richard managed to escape with the help of Osmundo de Centeville, Bernardo de Senlis, who had been a companion of Rollo d'A Normandy, his paternal grandfather, Ivo de Belesme, and Bernardo, the Dane, ancestor of the Harcourt and Beaumont families. In 968, Richard agreed to submit to Hugh, Count of Paris. At that time, he allied himself with Norman and Viking leaders, removed Louis IV of Rouen, and recovered Normandy in 947. Later, he got into fights with Edward II of England, due to Normandy having purchased a considerable part of the loot from the Viking invasions from England. It took the intervention of a Pope envoy to prevent war. In 991, Ricardo and Ethelredo signed a treaty in which they promised not to help their enemies. This peace contributed to the development of commercial relations between Normandy and England. Ricardo was bilingual, having been well educated in Bayeux. He was more sensitive to his Danish subjects than to his French subjects. However, during his reign, Normandy was completely Gallicized and Christianized. He introduced the feudal system, with Normandy becoming one of the most feudalized states in Europe. He carried out a major reorganization of the Norman military system, based on heavy cavalry. He also became the guardian of the young Hugo, Count of Paris, after his father's death in 956. Family and descent: Richard I, Duke of Normandy, first married Emma of Paris in 960, daughter of Hugh the Great, Count of Paris. They came together at a very young age. She died in 966, without issue. According to Roberto de Torigni, shortly after Emma's death, Ricardo went hunting and stopped near a forester's house. She fell in love with his wife, Sanfreda, but as she was a virtuous woman, she suggested that he date her unmarried sister, Gunora of Crepon, my 32nd grandmother, 7 times my grandmother, instead of her. Gunora became his lover and his family rose socially. His brother, Periphastus of Crepon, was possibly involved in a controversial trial related to heresy. Gunora, like Ricardo, had Nordic ancestry, being Danish by blood. Ricardo would marry her, to legitimize his children. According to Dudo de Saint-Quentin, Gunora de Crepon was of Danish noble origin, daughter of Harold I, King of Denmark, and Gyrith Olafstata. Her family reigned in western Normandy and was said to be very wealthy herself. Her marriage to Richard I was of great political importance, both for her husband and his progeny. His brother, Herfast de Crepon, was the progenitor of a large Norman family. His sisters and nieces married some of the most important nobles in Normandy. From the marriage between Richard I, the Fearless, Duke of Normandy, and Gunora de Crepon, my 32nd grandmother, 7 times my grandmother, were born. Richard II of Normandy the Good, Duke of Normandy, married twice, the first with Judith of Brittany, my 31st grandparents, 7 times my grandparents, and the second in 1017, with Estridus Vensdatter. Robert II of Rouen, known as the Dane, Archbishop of Rouen, Count of Evreux, died in 1037, had Children with a lady called Herleva, my 31st grandparents, 5 times my grandparents. Morgerio. Emma of Normandy married twice, the first in the year 1000 with Ethelred II of England, kings of the Saxons. The second marriage was in 1017, with Canute II of Denmark, the Great, King of England, Denmark and Norway. Matilda of Normandy, married to Odo II de Blois, Count of Blois, Champagne and Chartres. Muriela da Normandia, married to Tancredo de Altavilla, Lord of Cotentin. William of Normandy, Lord of EU, married to Lesalina de Turqueville, daughter of Tiroldo de Pontordola. Beatrice of Normandy married Ebolo Comborn de Turenne, 2nd Viscount of Comborn, 4th Viscount of Turenne, my 31st grandparents, 4 times my grandparents, son of Archibald I, 1st Viscount of Comborn and Sulpice de Turenne. Grandfather of Normandy married to Godofredo I Berengar of Rennes. Judith of Normandy married Turstan of Goz. Fredesender of Normandy married Tancredo de Hauteville, Lord of Cotentin, my 31st grandparents, 7 times my grandparents.